As you know, President Putin just announced a 3-day ceasefire, which doesn't sound like much, but it's a lot if you knew where we started from, because they were not. We had a president that for 3 years didn't speak to Putin, and it all shouldn't have happened.
The world watches with bated breath as the news of a potential ceasefire spreads across the globe. People everywhere are glued to their screens, hoping for a breakthrough in the long-standing conflict. A fragile hope for peace emerges from the ashes of the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. The war has left cities in ruins and countless lives shattered, but now, there is a glimmer of hope that the violence might finally come to an end. Russian President Vladimir Putin has announced a 3-day ceasefire, a move that has taken many by surprise. This announcement comes at a critical juncture as the world grapples with the implications of prolonged conflict. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has expressed cautious support for this ceasefire. Trump's endorsement, while tentative, adds a layer of complexity to the international response. His relationship with Putin has always been a subject of intense scrutiny and debate. This unexpected development comes amidst heightened tensions and a humanitarian crisis that has gripped the region for over a year. The conflict has displaced millions, creating one of the most severe refugee crises in recent history. The ceasefire, while limited in scope, offers a glimmer of hope for a diplomatic solution to the conflict. Peace talks have been attempted before, but this ceasefire could provide the necessary momentum for meaningful dialogue. This fragile truce, set to coincide with Moscow's Victory Day celebrations, represents a significant shift in the dynamics of the conflict. Victory Day is a deeply symbolic event in Russia, and the timing of the ceasefire suggests a strategic move by Putin. It marks the first time since the war began that Russia has proposed a ceasefire without demanding preconditions from Ukraine. This unprecedented move has left analysts speculating about Putin's true intentions. While the motives behind Putin's sudden change of heart remain unclear, the announcement has been met with a mix of cautious optimism and deep skepticism from the international community. Leaders around the world are weighing the potential benefits and risks of this ceasefire. The world waits to see if this ceasefire will hold, and if it can pave the way for meaningful negotiations. The clock is ticking, and the stakes could not be higher. The stakes are incredibly high, with the lives of millions hanging in the balance. Refugee camps are overflowing, and humanitarian aid is stretched thin. A lasting peace could bring much-needed relief to those suffering the most. The international community, led by the United States, must seize this opportunity to push for a lasting peace in the region. Diplomatic efforts must be intensified, and all parties involved need to come to the table with genuine intentions for peace. Achieving these objectives. Experts argue that while the intention behind the truce is commendable, the short time frame may not be sufficient to address Hope is that even a brief pause in the fighting can save lives and alleviate some of the suffering. For the civilians caught in the conflict, the ceasefire represents a glimmer of hope. Families may have a chance to reunite, and children could experience a lasting peace efforts. The future remains uncertain, but the world remains hopeful that this ceasefire could be a stepping stone towards a more permanent resolution. The international community's response to Putin's ceasefire announcement has been mixed, reflecting the deep divisions that the conflict has exposed. While some nations have cautiously welcomed the move, others remain deeply skeptical, questioning the sincerity and timing of the announcement. The ceasefire, which comes after months of intense fighting and significant casualties on both sides, has been seen by some as a potential turning point, while others view it as a mere tactical maneuver by Russia. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has expressed skepticism, dismissing the proposal as a theatrical performance designed to deflect international pressure and buy time for Russian forces to regroup. Zelensky, who has been at the forefront of Ukraine's resistance against Russian aggression, has consistently called for genuine and verifiable actions rather than empty promises. His stance reflects a deep mistrust of Russian intentions, a sentiment that is widely shared among the Ukrainian populace and military. Zelensky's skepticism is rooted in Russia's past actions, including its violation of previous ceasefire agreements. Over the years, numerous ceasefires have been announced only to be broken shortly thereafter, often with devastating consequences for civilians caught in the crossfire. This history of broken promises has made it difficult for Ukraine to trust any new declarations of peace from Moscow. The memories of past betrayals are still fresh, and the scars of conflict run deep. In contrast to Ukraine's cautious stance, former U.S. President Donald Trump has expressed cautious optimism, calling the ceasefire a significant step towards peace. Trump, who has always advocated for a more conciliatory approach towards Russia, believes that this ceasefire could pave the way for more comprehensive peace talks. He has often emphasized the importance of dialogue and negotiation, suggesting that a diplomatic solution is the only viable path to ending the conflict. Trump, who has long advocated for a more conciliatory approach towards Russia, has suggested that low oil prices and mounting economic pressure may be pushing Putin towards a negotiated settlement. The economic sanctions imposed by the international community have significantly strained Russia's economy, leading some to speculate that the ceasefire is a strategic move to alleviate some of this pressure. Trump has pointed out that economic factors often play a crucial role in geopolitical decisions, and this situation might be no different. However, Trump's optimism has been met with criticism from some quarters, who argue that it is premature to view the ceasefire as a genuine breakthrough. Critics point out that without concrete actions and verifiable commitments, the ceasefire remains just another announcement. They caution against being overly optimistic, highlighting the need for a cautious and measured approach. The history of the conflict has shown that words alone are not enough to bring about lasting peace. The divergent reactions from Ukraine and the United States highlight the complex geopolitical realities surrounding the conflict. While Ukraine, bearing the brunt of the conflict, remains wary and demands concrete actions, the United States, with its broader strategic interests, appears to be exploring all possible avenues for a resolution. This difference in perspectives underscores the multifaceted nature of international diplomacy, where national interests and geopolitical strategies often shape responses to global events. While Ukraine remains wary of Russia's intentions, the United States, under its new administration, appears to be cautiously exploring the possibility of a diplomatic solution. The Biden administration has emphasized the importance of a united international front and has been working closely with allies to ensure that any peace efforts are genuine and sustainable. This approach reflects a broader strategy of multilateralism and cooperation, aiming to bring about a stable and lasting resolution to the conflict. The coming days will be crucial in determining whether this ceasefire can serve as a stepping stone towards a more lasting peace. The world will be watching closely, hoping that this announcement marks the beginning of the end of a long and brutal conflict. The stakes are high and the path to peace is fraught with challenges, but with concerted efforts and genuine commitment, there is hope that a brighter future lies ahead for Ukraine and the region. The current ceasefire proposal is not the first attempt to bring a halt to the fighting in Ukraine. Since the conflict began, there have been numerous attempts to broker ceasefires, all of which have ultimately failed to bring about a lasting peace. These past failures cast a long shadow over the current truce, fueling skepticism about Russia's commitment to a peaceful resolution. In April 2025, just weeks before the current ceasefire announcement, Russia proposed a similar humanitarian truce to coincide with the Orthodox Easter holiday. That ceasefire was short-lived, with both sides accusing each other of violations within hours of its implementation. Ukraine accused Russia of using the ceasefire as a cover to reposition its troops and shell civilian areas, while Moscow claimed that Ukrainian forces were responsible for breaking the truce. The failure of past ceasefires has eroded trust between the warring parties and made it increasingly difficult to find common ground. The international community will be watching closely to see if this latest ceasefire can break the cycle of violence and pave the way for meaningful negotiations.